Hi, it's your girl Maya from Locals Inspired Faith, and this is a study of Genesis 22, verses 12 through 18 in the King James Version. This study is based off of a vision that I received from the Lord, where I saw two individual getting two large jumbo cornrows going straight back, and the ends of those cornrows were pinned together like a pinwheel, and I knew that this was a resemblance of a ram's head. And then I heard the Lord say, I am the ram. I am the answer. I am the living sacrifice. And I believe that the Lord also used the phrasing, I am, because he is not just a ram. He is not just the answer. He is not just a living sacrifice, but he is all forms of provision. He is everything that we need. He is the great I am. Also in the beginning of Genesis 22, he said he refers to himself as I am, saying that he is here. He tells Abraham to go up to the land of Moriah, which also means appearance appeared by God or chosen of God. And so he tells him to go up to the land of Moriah, where he will show him the place. In verse 5 of the King James Version, Abraham tells his servants, and Abraham said to his young men, Abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder within worship and come to you and come again to you. So this trip was about 3 days, and I believe that Abraham was already in the posture of worship, because he said, I and the land will go yonder and worship, meaning he was going to go further ahead of them, but also worship. But this was a 3 day trip. In order to be able to be in a heart posture, to be able to receive from the Lord and to be able to hear from the Lord without panicking and being calm, he had to really been meditating on the Lord, and being able to hear from him clearly. This is an extreme request. Most would say for the Lord to ask Abraham, after waiting so long for his promised son, he's finally here, and now the Lord is asking you to sacrifice him. This means that he had such a pure relationship with the Lord, that he trusted God, that he was able to hear the Lord. And most of us would say, oh, that's not of God. God wouldn't ask me to do that. But Abraham was sure that it was God, which is why he was able to obey. And now when he gets to the mount, there is three words that I want to point out in verse 13. And it says, And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in the thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up for a burnt offering in the instead of his son. This is important because there's just three different phrases of Abraham looking. So this paints the picture that he was in expectation, that he was looking for an answer. Before he followed through with sacrificing his son, he was in expectation of an answer from God, because this is the child you promised me. And so right before he followed through with it, his answer, the ram in the thicket of the bush, was there. When we look at the words, I'm going to go down to my notes. And so it says, I. This can be looked at literally or figuratively according to the Strong's Concordance in H5869. And it says, outward appearance, before, or think best, be content, countenance, knowledge, to look, regard, sight, resemblance. So this is an intent looking. And then we come down to the next phrase, and it says, and looked. And this is H7200. And this is the Hebrew word ra'ah. And it says, advise self, appear, approve, behold, consider, discern, joyfully lo, to have experience, to gaze, to take heed, want to look upon one another, regard, to have respect, to stare, surely, think, and vision, view or visions. And then we have the word behold, which means to certainly look, or certainly behold or look. So he's intently gazing. And I imagine Most of us have daydreamed at some point in our life, and I imagine that before Abraham was following through with this task of sacrificing Isaac, that he is overlooking the horizon, like he's looking up over everything that is before him, um, waiting and expecting an answer, and that is when he seen the ram. Also, I want to point out that because I didn't notice at first, I actually mistaken the ram as being the same thing as a goat. A ram is a male, adult male sheep, and a lamb will be a sheep that is less than 1 years of age, regardless of gender. So I just wanted to point that out in case you made the same mistake as me. But why am I saying this? Because in order to obey the Lord, you must be able to hear of the Lord. And then you also must be sure of the voice that you're hearing. And then not just taking what the Lord shares with you and running off with it. Imagine if Abraham was over consumed with worry and over consumed with anxiousness and was not able to hear further instructions of the Lord. He may not have paid any attention to the ram being there if he wasn't in expectation of the Lord providing a solution for him, nor would he may not have heard the additional instructions of him not following through with the sacrifice. So we need to be in a point of our relationship where we are looking to God for the answer, where we are step in step with him, where we are connected, where we have a pure relationship with the Lord, that we may know each step. The word says that he is a lamp to our feet, and sometimes when you have a lamp, when the picture that is painted for having a lamp to your feet, that means you know what the next step is. You may not know all of your surroundings. You are following the Lord blindly, and when you have that trust, you can be led to your safe destination. You could be led to the place that the Lord wants you to be in when you are obedient. And sometimes when you don't move on the thing the Lord tells you to do, you sacrifice the blessing, you sacrifice where God wanted to take you. And not only that, unfortunately, sometimes your very life or other people's lives can be dependent on you following instructions. So as we go on after verse 13, um it says and Abraham called the name of that place Jehovah Jireh, as it is said to this day, in the mount of the Lord it shall be seen. So most of the time we say, this verse is reference to Jehovah Jireh on the mount of the Lord, it will be provided. Well, an answer was provided. Provision, the ram, instead of his son, was provided. But here, I want to focus on the word seen, because discernment and vision is trusting that the Lord will show you the place that you need to be and show you the answers that you need for your life. Not everything, when we think about provision, sometimes we're thinking about things in a tangible manner, but you don't want to miss the things that the Lord is showing you. Just like the Lord showed Abraham the stars of the many generations later on. But the point I'm mentioning here, you have to be able to discern what the Lord is showing you, and not always expect that provision is something that's going to be money or material things. Yes, he did receive something physical, but the most important thing was being able to be connected with the Lord, where he could discern the voice of the Lord and discern the next step. The other verse I want to share here, is from Matthew 24:24, and it says, "For false messiahs and false prophets will rise up and perform great signs and wonders, so as to deceive, if possible, even God's chosen ones." And that's from the New Living Translation. And the notes I wrote here said, there are distractions and deception everywhere. To grow in the Lord and be placed where the Lord should have us and receive his promises, we must be able to discern when the Lord speaks and expect his instruction and guidance and obey. This is the time to come up higher with the Lord, fine tuning our discernment to recognize when the Lord is speaking in His very presence. And there's some posing questions that came up while studying. Could it be that the Lord is bringing you to a new place in consecration, faith, trust, obedience, or a complete new thing in your bloodline or family that will impact generations? How do you obey the Lord in this new place without knowing what it looks like or the outcome? You obey the Lord in this place by trusting the Lord, remain obedient to every instruction, expect guidance, and lean not on your own understanding. Have faith and have a heart posture of worship. And so I believe that when you put your trust in God, you are not left in a place where you can be disappointed, where you know that the Lord always has the right answers, that His ways are not our ways, and that His plans are better than our plans. Even when we don't understand, even when we don't have the full picture, we know that this is the best for us. And sometimes it's not just about us. When we finish reading on in Genesis 22, verse 15, the King James Version, it says, "And the angel of the Lord called unto Abraham out of heaven the second time and said, By myself I sworn, said the Lord, for because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thy only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies, and in the seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice." This blessing, this generational blessing that even we benefit from today, was allotted to Abraham and his seed because he obeyed his voice. We have to get out of the place where we think that um, disobedience, whether partial disobedience or slow disobedience, is not a big deal. This one action affected all of humanity after Abraham, those that are in covenant with God, because he obeyed His voice and was willing to follow through with the sacrifice of Isaac if necessary. And there may be some things that happen where we need to be in tune with the Lord, and our very lives or our loved ones' lives can be dependent on how well we can hear of the Lord and how well we can follow instructions. So I don't want you to take this lightly. We need to really be taking the time to sharpen our ears, spending time with the Lord, having real fellowship with the Lord and worshiping Him, and having such a relationship that no matter what the Lord asks us, we can be sure that it's not deception of the enemy, that we're not being deceived, but it is of God, or vice versa, and that when the enemy is telling us something, or when God is telling us something that may seem uncharacteristic, that we know, because we know how to test the spirit. So I hope that this blessed you. Spend time with the Lord. Make sure you're being obedient. Um, that's it. Be blessed.